What is culture? Mr. Merriam and Mr. Webster define culture as the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization. So, for example, there's the American culture, which involves a lot of hamburgers, baseball, patriotism, and big cars. And the British culture, which involves football, pubs, dubstep, and adorable accents. And the Indian culture, which involves dance, close families, spiced food, and saris. But what if one person was influenced by all three cultures? Meet Ashna, a sophomore at Saratoga High School. She was born in India. Her parents are both Indian and moved to America when Ashna was very small. She also has an older sister, Adrita. Ashna has lived in 2 states in the USA all of her life and moved to Saratoga, California in the 4th grade. She stayed in California until 7th grade when her dad's work transferred him all the way across the world to Britain. Ashna lived in London for 2 years and went to an American school in London. Every day, on her way to school, she got to walk across the famous Abbey Road, and she got to travel all over Europe. 2 years later, her dad's job brought her back to California. And today, Ashna goes to Saratoga High and is a true blend of her cultural influences.
I was born in Calcutta, India, and when I was, I think, 5 months old, I moved to Portland, Oregon, and I lived there for 8 years, so that's where I spent the majority of my life. And I came to Argonaut Elementary School here in California in 4th grade, and then I went to Redwood, and in 8th grade I moved to London, England, and I spent 2 years there. And I just came back to Saratoga High.
Meet Ramya. Ramya is a member of an Indian family that truly exemplifies the country's culture. Ramya here is going to tell us what the Indian culture is like so that we can further understand Ashna's influences.
Indian culture is a lot different than American culture. Like in terms of studying and social lives, the two don't really mix well together. Like there's a lot of pressure on doing well in school and things like that because that's basically all they have. People there are a lot more conservative than Americans are, so there's not very much like boy-girl interaction. People don't really date as much as they do here in America. There's also like food, we eat differently, we can eat with our hands, and like there's a certain hand you have to eat certain foods with and things like that. There's dancing, there's singing, there are different stories, like, and there's like this beautiful religion that's there that's like, there's so much stuff that you can be a part of. In India, family is very important. Like it's essential that you become close with your family because they're the people who are going to be with you for the rest of your lives. Place a lot of emphasis on keeping in contact with everyone and saying, "Hi, how are you doing?" You don't have privacy in very many personal matters, and people expect you to tell them things, even if you may not want to. You are expected to act like polite and chaste and virtuous all the time. It is very common for like middle-class families to have maids and cooks and servants and gardeners and things like that. It just builds a sense of community.
Now that we know what the Indian culture is like, let's see how Ashna displays her Indian culture.
Culturally, my family is very Hindu, and I mean, we're not religious, but we definitely have different values from American families. Like every night we always sit together and eat dinner. There's a lot more freedom, which is something that people wouldn't really expect. If someone didn't know what culture I was, I guess the things that would really point out that I am Indian would be the foods I eat. I used to do Indian dance, and I can still speak Bengali, get by in broken Hindi. I still consider myself very Indian.
Why don't we learn a bit about the British culture? Meet Nick. Nick lives in London. like Ashna did. He's visited the United States a couple of times before and has definitely faced a bit of culture shock. He has seen many differences between British and American culture.
Hooliganism. It's when people who support their local football, soccer team turn up to their matches and go crazy supporting their team. When you're legal to drink, people go down to the pub, they watch games going on in the evening, they'll probably arrive at like 6 o'clock and finish drinking at midnight and then go home. At my school, it's a private school. There are no girls, only guys. Lessons start at 9 o'clock. Before lessons, we have an assembly for about 10 minutes where we go into a great hall. Everyone in my school, we have about 850 people in my school, which for me is a lot. America, you just seem so much more laid back. I think it might be because of the weather. In America, I can assume that if someone wanted to go on a date with someone else, they'd go straight up to them and be like, hey, do you want to go on a date? They'd say yes. In England, you gotta wait. You gotta talk to that person for a few weeks at least. Music in England is so much better than in America. There are so many more upcoming artists in England that no one's ever heard of in America. No, that's where you're wrong, right? In America, you study English. In England, we study English, right? So if you're essentially learning our language, the way we spell stuff is correct. The way you spell things is incorrect. Learn my language properly, please.
So now we know about British culture. What British customs has Ashna kept?
My 2 years in Britain actually had quite an effect on me. One of the biggest influences on my fashion sense was my move to England, I guess, because my dress style completely changed. I used to never care what I looked like. I have a lot of, fancy, I guess, clothes. Writing with British spelling has always been very natural to me. I listen to a lot of British music. Moving to England was one of the best experiences of my life.
Last but not least, American culture. You may be thinking, what? American culture? That doesn't even exist. Tell that to Ashna, who has experienced firsthand American culture clash.
Generally, living in Europe, you get such a blend of cultures. America is very focused on America. Living in Europe, you get such a blend of cultures. There's definitely that element of etiquette that isn't as present in America. When you think America is proud of something and very happy about something, they'll kind of get angry about it too. In America, you have all these different messages that are trying to come through. I'm very American.
So there you have it. 3 cultures, 1 person. But what does Ashna believe about preserving culture? Why does she keep these traditions?
Since I've lived in a lot of different places, Saratoga High is my 7th school, I never feel like I have to compromise one culture in place of another. I think, everybody is a blend of different cultures, no matter where they've lived, or, where they come from, what they're raised with, what values that are important to them. They all have an effect on who that person is. I am Ashna, this is where I come from. I'm Bengali, American, and British.